Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the right side. Doug Billings here. Ladies and gentlemen, today, 3 years ago, a tragic debacle in Afghanistan. We're going to pay tribute to the 13 United States servicemen and women who we lost thanks to the failed withdrawal from Kamala Harris, who bragged about being in the room with Joe Biden as they made the plans for that withdrawal. Terrible, terrible day. And President Trump, acting the president today, going to Arlington National Cemetery by the invitation, by the way, of the Gold Star families who were involved with that tragedy, their children lost on that terrible day. Also, the endorsements keep on coming for President Trump. We'll talk about that. All of this and much more. There's great hope, even though it's a sad day, great hope surrounding the Trump campaign. I'm going to tell you all about it. Ladies and gentlemen, the right side with Doug Billings is now upon you. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey, everybody. My name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to do a big shout out for my great friend and one of the best in the business, Mr. Doug Billings. Right side with Doug Billings, right side with Doug Billings. Doug is the future of the airwaves when it comes to independent broadcasters and podcasters. He is the new Rush Limbaugh. He's exactly what America needs right now, looking for honesty, looking for wisdom, looking for truth, looking for patriotism. Listen to Doug Billings at Right Side with Doug Billings. God bless you and God bless America, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are winning. We're winning, winning, winning. Welcome to the Right Side with Doug Billings. Are you ready?
We are not liberal snowflakes who melt away in the face of tragedy, adversity, and challenge. We are a covenant nation under God, and his divine providence is not dead and it's not gone. It is living within each and every one of you. And you will bring it to life in such a way that the world has never seen before. We never back down. We never give up. We march forward.
Present! Out!
And ladies and gentlemen, there it is. President Trump acting more presidential than Administrator Biden and Vice Pretender Harris have done in the last 3.5 years. By invitation of the Gold Star parents, President Trump today paying honor and respects and remembrance to the 13 military men and women who we lost on this date 3 years ago during that terrible planned and just a debacle of an event over in Afghanistan. Our hearts, our prayers go out to the families. President Trump placing a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown and then later visiting the graves with some of the families of these servicemen and women that we lost 3 years ago today. August 26, 2021, a suicide bomber at the Hamid Karazi International Airport, killing 13 Americans and, over 100 Afghans were lost in the chaos that ensued that day. Still some people left behind trying to get back, and we left Americans behind. We left vast amounts of equipment behind, cash, and you know the story, the Abbey Gate bombing, and it's been duly noted by me throughout today on social media, today's remembrance and today's anniversary. Also duly noted is that you see nothing and you hear nothing about this from Vice Pretender Harris and Administrator Biden. Kamala Harris, of course, who famously claimed, I was in the room with Joe when we made plans for the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Are you happy about those plans? I am. Famous interview, famous quote. Looking back now, horrible. There's very probably not any, at least in modern history, military operations that were carried out and planned so poorly, and that lies right at the feet of Kamala Harris. And she's been silent today. No mention of this anniversary. She's not offered any condolences publicly that I've seen, that this program has seen, to anyone, not to the Gold Star members of these families, no one. It's one thing not to hear about this from Administrator Biden, because he obviously probably doesn't have the mental capacity to remember this anniversary, probably doesn't know the names. He doesn't even remember the decisions that were made back then. So it's one thing to excuse him to a degree, but Kamala has no excuse. And it is infuriating to me, ladies and gentlemen, as a man who loves what this military of the United States represents, what the people in it have sacrificed. And when things like this happen and there's no sense of condolence and there's no sense of accountability from the people who made the decisions, instead we have President Trump traveling to Arlington, as he should have, because he was invited there to do what a true commander-in-chief and a true patriot would do, simply by default, show up and show respect and comfort the families, doing what Kamala Harris should have done, placing a wreath there on the tomb, paying respect to the 13 men and women who we lost 3 years ago. President Trump being presidential. Kamala Harris in hiding, running her basement campaign and cowering away not only from this anniversary, but apparently from the debates that were scheduled with President Trump, changing the rules, wanting to have notes, wanting the mics on and off or whatever. Hollywood producers and directors called in to help coach her how to speak in public, because every time she's appeared on the debate stage or in public, she's screwed it up. She has fumbled the ball every time. And so President Trump, speaking today in Detroit with the National Guard, made mention of this, and he promised that when he retakes the White House, he would, on the first day, he would demand that by the time the inauguration is finished, that on his desk would be the resignations of every one of the officials responsible for that disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal. It's part of the problem with the radical liberal playbook, ladies and gentlemen, because you have to remember the radical liberal movement, and this obviously it includes Kamala Harris. They want violence. They want chaos and crisis to develop and to take root. So in the wake of chaos and crisis that resulted from that terrible and deadly Afghanistan withdrawal, an attempt to enable more future crisis and chaos was then put in place. What do you mean, Doug? What are you talking about? They didn't have anything to do with any kind of future chaos and crisis. It was a terrible event, but surely you're not blaming Kamala Harris. Well, she was in the room. She bragged about making the plans for the withdrawal. She said it herself. Joe Biden, and when I say that they're after future chaos and crisis, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have not disciplined or terminated any one of the officers who are in charge of carrying out those orders and making sure that the logistics and the plan were in place. It's one thing to get, a crappy order from Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. It's another thing not to stand up and ask questions or to ask for clarification about the execution of the plan and to make sure that you have resources and able to get everyone out safely. But you see, ladies and gentlemen, that's just it. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden didn't discipline or terminate any of the officers that are responsible for this, precisely because they want to give them every opportunity to instill more chaos and crisis. Maybe they'll make more mistakes. Maybe these officers, if we leave them in place, there'll be more chaos and more derision and more problems. And if you think I'm crazy, oh, Doug, give me a break. You're stretching it now. That's a conspiracy. These are good. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are good, decent people. They wouldn't act like that. That's not how their minds work. Of course, it's how their mind. Look around this country. I mean, I say it all the time. Evidence of the obvious is sufficient. Everything they do creates chaos, and they don't do anything to stop it. Another excuse, an example, is Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, let Minneapolis burn for 3 days before he finally took action because he was under pressure to do so. But during those 3 days, chaos and crisis, arson, riots, anarchy, arson. You're telling me that they don't want violence? They don't do anything to prevent it. And when violence is capitulated and cascaded down upon us, they reward the people who started it. Reward them. Doug, what do you mean? You're crazy, man. They reward them by not prosecuting them, by not holding them accountable, by not firing them, by not getting rid of them. They do the same thing with violent criminals. They don't prosecute them with extreme prejudice and put them away for the full extent of the law. If they are prosecuted at all, they're given light sentences or let out early. It's because the radical liberal movement always wants to keep avenues of chaos and crisis in place. What more evidence do we need, my friends? And just because someone in the military, just because that person is a 3-star, 2-star, an officer, just because they're in the military doesn't give them immunity from being stupid. 4 months before that tragic suicide bombing attack in Afghanistan, Vice Pretender Kamala Harris bragged about her role in planning that withdrawal. And it turned out to be the most deadly day in the United States military history in the modern era. She not only is not competent to be a senator, she's not competent to be a vice president. She's clearly not competent to be a commander-in-chief. And last month, during the debacle that ended up being the final debate of his career, Administrator Biden had the audacity to claim this, that he was the only president this century, this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world. I mean, I remember the night, I remember him saying that, of all of that night and all of the gobbledygook that he spewed forth, that line I remember like it just happened yesterday. And criticism about that was swift and extreme from the Gold Star families whose sons and daughters Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are responsible for. There's a gentleman, Darren Hoover, a Gold Star father of a Marine Staff Sergeant, Darren Hoover, who was one of the 13 Americans we lost that day. His reaction, as you might imagine, was intense. And after he heard Biden say that in the debate, here's what Mr. Hoover had to say. He said, you know, that stumbling, bumbling buffoon that we have in the White House had the audacity to say that under his watch, no military members have died. And then he added this: the rage and the absolute disgust that I got from hearing that made me start to yell at the TV set. And you know, folks, Biden has never, not once, not one time has he mentioned the names of those kids. He's never said their names out loud. To this very day, he probably, and I know he probably doesn't know them, he probably doesn't remember them. He's not mentally, cognitively capable of it. So, I mean, we do extend Biden grace and that he's just not capable. But gosh, I mean, Kamala hasn't done that either. All 13 families, all they got was what they call a canned letter, a lithographed, Xeroxed letter saying the exact same thing. The only thing that was different was the dear such and such, the name. That was the only thing in this letter that was changed. They got the same letter, all 13 families, a lithographed signature, not even written by his own hand. Kamala Harris never picked up the phone to call any of these parents, and yet President Trump, not in office, contacted every one of them. And today it was him, President Trump, not Kamala Harris, who the families invited and wanted to take part in the remembrance ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery. That should speak volumes about the difference of character between these two individuals. One clearly designed and capable of being a commander-in-chief, and the other absolutely not. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to give more tribute to these 13 young men and women, and we're also going to talk about the tidal wave of support and endorsements that continues from Tier 1 top-level people in this country coming over to the right side for Donald Trump. Stay with me, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be right back after this break. Cheers. Hi, everybody. Well, here I am on the set of my show, The Right Side. This is where it all happens. This is where you and I meet shoulder to shoulder to try to retrieve the Republic away from the grip of the commune socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. And it's where the people who watch and listen to this program become the most intellectually mature members in all of podcast land, my friends. Hey, DougBillings.us is my website. I have a favor. You know, I never charge you for this show. I'd like you to prayerfully consider heading over to DougBillings.us and click on the donate tab to set up a recurring monthly donation. It's how I produce the show. I don't ever charge you for this show. So what is the truth? What is the analysis of the real state of play in America and around the world worth to you? 5, 10, 20, 100, 200 bucks a month? Whatever you can offer. This is how I produce the show. It's just me over here. There's no huge organization. I'm not monetized on social media. I am a crowd-funded show, and I am actively seeking sponsors. I would love for you to be one. DougBillings.us, ladies and gentlemen. Prayerfully consider it. God bless you. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. I am Doug Billings. Today's economy crashing thanks to the policies, platform, and politics of Kamala Harris. Thank you very much. If you want to protect your investment that you have set aside for your retirement, everyone's talking about it. Everyone's diversifying in gold and silver, the biblical standard for which we can protect our money. Head over to Doug's Gold, DOUGS gold.com, Doug'sGold.com, and simply get information about how you can diversify your portfolio and protect your retirement, ladies and gentlemen. Doug'sGold.com. Also information about how to use gold and silver as currency on Doug'sGold.com. Ladies and gentlemen, head over there today. Protect yourselves. Protect your retirement. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side. The Right Side with Doug Billings, where we meet in determined prayer and determined patriotism.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you very much. Standing shoulder to shoulder with you as we try to retrieve the Republic away from the grip of the commune socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. I want to take just a few seconds and read to you the names of the 13 men and women who we lost 3 years ago today in Afghanistan and thank them and their families for their service. Again, and unfortunately, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden won't do this. Other people have on our side today, but I feel obligated. I just feel I need to say their names and where they're from real quickly. 13 servicemen and women, ladies and gentlemen, who we lost 3 years ago today. Staff Sergeant Darren T. Hoover, he was 31 years old from Salt Lake City, Utah. Sergeant Johnny Rosario Picardo, 25 years old from Lawrence, Massachusetts. Sergeant Nicole G., 23, from Sacramento, California. Corporal Hunter Lopez, 22, from Indio, California. Corporal Deegan Page, 23 years old, from Omaha, Nebraska. Corporal Humberto Sanchez, 22, from Longsport, Indiana. Marine Corporal Lance Corporal David L. Espinoza, he was 20 years old, from Rio Bravo, Texas. Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz, 20 years old, from St. Charles, Missouri. Lance Corporal Riley McCollum, 20 years old, from Jackson, Wyoming. Lance Corporal Dylan Marola, 20 years old, from Rancho Cucamonga, California. And Lance Corporal Kareem Nikoe, 20 years old, from Norco, California. Rest in peace, dear soldiers. Rest in peace. So in other news today involving President Trump, he continues to benefit from high-profile people coming over and endorsing him, people who were once members of the commune socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, right? They come to his side. You know, they are one in unison with regards to the reasons as to why. The Democrat Party has become a mix of communism, socialism. And yes, you can throw in Marxism, fascism, and all of the isms, right? Throw them all in there because that's what the Democrats have become, to fight against the weaponization of government and against the attempt to imprison and persecute your political opponents, the warmongering, the never-ending wars bad social, bad foreign policy, all of this, part of the new liberal brand in America, all of those things, part of what the liberals now stand for. So people who were once in that party have woken up. Tulsi Gabbard is the latest. The former congresswoman from Hawaii endorsed President Trump today, and she gave quite a speech. Tulsi's also on President Trump's debate preparation team. I'm going to show you some clips later in the show of how she absolutely dissected Kamala Harris on stage when they were running for president back in 2020. And today she joined Trump at the stage up in Detroit when he was speaking to the National Guard. And she chose today's date precisely because of what we just finished talking about. She wanted to come out and endorse President Trump on the anniversary of the loss of these 13 American servicemen and women in Afghanistan. And what a message it sends. You know, she's a veteran. She was deployed to Iran and Iraq, and she understands combat. She's been through it. She's one of them. And she sees this, and she sees President Trump as the president who ends wars and who lays the groundwork for relations between nations and leaders that prevent and stop wars. So she was a Democrat, you know that, Representative Hawaii's 2nd Congressional District. She was in office from 2013 to 2021, but she left the Democrat Party, now known as the Communist Socialist Party, in 2022, precisely because she, in her own words, it's an elitist cabal of warmongers over there. So here is, I'm going to show you a clip, Tulsi Gabbard today in Detroit with President Trump offering him her endorsement. Clip number 2.
But no, she's a special person. She's got great common sense, great spirit. She loves our country, and she loves the people in this room. Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Aloha. I know we got Hawaii in the house here. There we go. It is a privilege to be here with all of you, my brothers and sisters in uniform, especially on this day of all days. I had the privilege of joining President Trump this morning at Arlington Cemetery, where he joined 2 Gold Star families and loved ones of Staff Sergeant Hoover and Sergeant G, both of whom were 2 of the 13 killed in the Abbey Gate attack 3 years ago today in Kabul. And I can tell you, as we were there, as he laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier, joining these Marines' loved ones, I felt the sorrow that he shared with them in their loss. I felt and saw his sincere appreciation for these servicemen and women who paid the ultimate price, and their loved ones who continue to grieve to this day. This is personal for me, as I know it is for so many of you here. This is real. It's not just words. I first deployed to Iraq in 2005 with the Hawaii Army National Guard as a member of Charlie Med. As those of you who were deployed during that time know, it was the height of the war, and sadly we took many casualties. And every day we were confronted with that high human cost of war, and that sadness as we boarded the plane when we left, that we were leaving some of our brothers and sisters behind, only to lose others when we got home to suicide. So I mean what I say when I share with you that I know that President Trump understands the grave responsibility that a president and commander-in-chief bears for every single one of our lives. Whether you're a soldier, you're an airman, a Marine, sailor, or a coastie, he keeps us in his heart in the decisions that he makes. We saw this through his first term in the presidency, when he not only didn't start any new wars, he took action to de-escalate and prevent wars. He exercised the courage that we expect from our commander-in-chief in exhausting all measures of diplomacy, having the courage to meet with adversaries, dictators, allies, and partners alike in the pursuit of peace, seeing war as a last resort. The truth is, as we head towards our decision as a country in November, the same cannot be said about Kamala Harris. In fact, the opposite is true, and we're living through this reality today as this administration has us facing multiple wars on multiple fronts and regions around the world, and closer to the brink of nuclear war than we ever have been before. This is one of the main reasons why I'm committed to doing all that I can to send President Trump back to the White House, where he can once again serve us as our commander-in-chief. Because I am confident that his first task will be to do the work to walk us back from the brink of war. We cannot be prosperous unless we are at peace. And we can't live free as long as we have a government that is retaliating against its political opponents and undermining our civil liberties, weaponizing our very institutions against those they deem as a threat. Kamala Harris has done this over the last 3.5 years. She won't hesitate to continue that if she is elected as president. President Trump has been their first and foremost target in this because they don't want us as voters to even have the option to vote for him. I've been their most recent target, added to a secret domestic terror watch list after exposing the truth about what kind of dangers we would face if Kamala Harris is elected as president. We as Americans must stand together to reject this anti-freedom culture of political retaliation and abuse of power. We can't allow our country to be destroyed by politicians who will put their own power ahead of the interests of the American people, our freedom, and our future. I am proud to stand here before you today, whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent. If you love our country, as I do, if you cherish peace and freedom as we do, I invite you to join me in doing all that we can to save our country and elect President Donald J. Trump and send him back to the White House to do the tough work of saving our country and serving the people. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
A great speech, and I wanted you to hear the whole thing. I think it has today especially a significant meaning, obviously, not only for President Trump, but on the anniversary of the death of those 13 servicemen and women. So servicemen and women love Tulsi Gabbard. They love her. You could hear the applause. She is one of them, and we love her too. She has a humble confidence about her. She's articulate. She's well measured. She's obviously highly intelligent, and she ran in the 2019 Democratic presidential primary against Kamala Harris and absolutely destroyed her in those debates. She is someone who, I think that you know this. There's a lot of people in President Trump's, in the MAGA conservative movement, who wanted her to be part of the administration. She's going to be in some form or fashion. Primarily now, as I mentioned, she is in and on the campaign debate prep team. And again, what better person to have than someone who's already dissected Kamala Harris and taken her apart on the debate stage right in front of all of us. So cheers to her. The numbers keep on adding up between Elon Musk and RFK Jr. and now Tulsi Gabbard. Look for more people to come. Who else is going to join the party? Who else is going to, but gosh, what if Mark Zuckerberg all of a sudden changes his mind and becomes one of us? Now, wouldn't that be something? I'm kidding. I don't have any evidence that he will, but wouldn't that be, he was impressed, that assassination attempt. And Mark Zuckerberg said, that was the most badass thing I've ever seen. President Trump standing up and putting his fist in the air after he was shot in the face, standing up. I mean, he's impressed. And the thing is, folks, I said this a couple of days ago. I'll just say it again. The reason why people are impressed with that, with Trump getting up in the face of that, I mean, can you imagine? Tim Walz would never be able to get up and do that after an assassination attempt. Not that I'm wishing that upon Tim Walz, not at all. But he's not a man. He's a wussified version of a man. And Trump he's an American man. And he stood up after being shot in the face, raised his fist in the air, fight, fight, fight. The American flag in the backdrop, the picture, the most iconic picture of an American president now in history. And that's what we like about him. He's a man's man. And that's what we like. Women like that too. Women like it. And real women understand there's a difference between men and women. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, Doug, they're all equal. Everybody's equal. I heard this when I was in corporate America, I heard this all the time. Doug, we've got to treat everybody equally. No, we don't. In fact, I would have conversations with adult men and women. It's impossible to treat everybody equally. And it's beyond that, it's not even a good idea to treat people equally. And their heads exploded because it sounds counterintuitive. I said, what we're after is to treat people fairly. We're not here to treat people equally. People have different baggages. There's different experiences. There's different levels of expectation, so forth and so on. And so forget equally. We're not equal, ladies and gentlemen. We're different. Every one of us are different. Different worldviews, different political beliefs, different faith traditions, and different opinions about a whole array of how we've lived our lives. Treat them fairly. That's the objective, and that's what should be the case. And I think that when you look at what represents now this rebranding of the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, it's a wussification of all of that. They have wussified America, men and women alike, the way that we think about America, the way that we look at our values, the way that we treat each other, a bunch of wimps, wussies. There's no more American tradition. They've blended the differences between men and women. They can't even tell you what a woman is. They can't tell you they're afraid to say it because everybody's supposed to be gender fluid, right? So they dream up all of these fictions and they cast them down upon us, and it causes mental illness. And we have a whole now, you could, I don't even know, 7, 10 generations, 5 or 6 decades of this in process, where they're just wussifying us, taking us away from what we are intended to be. Men, women. Men and women, that is it. The fiction of gender misappropriation is a myth that we must call out. And that's what the rebranding of the liberal movement is all about. And that's why you see such a reaction to President Trump from the radical left, because they can't handle real men. They don't produce real men. They don't develop real men. They can't tolerate real men over there. So that's how they roll. That's their worldview. All right, up against another break. Before I go, let me tell you, DougBillings.us, ladies and gentlemen, is where you need to go. DougBillings.us. Not right now, after the show, after you're done watching the show. Head over to my website, DougBillings.us, and click on the Donate tab where you can prayerfully consider setting up a monthly recurring donation to help me continue to produce the show over there. And when we come back, we'll talk about opening up the phone lines. There's that beautiful website. Check it out over there. Click on the Donate tab and you can choose your amount, 5, 10, 100, $200, whatever you can afford. Prayerfully consider it. I don't charge you for the program. Never have, never will. It is only it's a crowd-funded program, and I am actively seeking new sponsors for it. So if you feel so moved, head over to DougBillings.us and prayerfully consider doing that. So, okay, when we come back, we'll open up the phone lines and we'll invite you to take part in the conversation today as we remember the 13 men and women we lost in Afghanistan. And then we're going to talk now a little bit about Kamala Harris and what she's not doing coming up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, a break coming your way. I'll be right back. Cheers. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. Hey, want to tell you about beef. Doug's Beef. Doug'sBeef.com. This is not your ordinary beef. This is prepper beef. If you want to have a supply of protein on hand, I'm talking ribeye, strip steaks, Kansas City and New York strip, and T-bones as well. Doug's Beef, ladies and gentlemen, check it out. Comes to you in freeze-dried packets, shelf life of 25 years. And when you cook this stuff up, I'm telling you, I wouldn't sell it if it wasn't delicious. Awesome stuff. DougsBeef.com. Head over there, take a look at all of the inventory, and stock your shelves with protein, with good tasting stuff. DougsBeef.com, ladies and gentlemen. Check it out. There's the beef. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. Worldviewtalk.com. You'll also find they have, well, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want to back up to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today, worldviewtalk.com.
Doug Billings reminding you that conservatives are better looking than liberals.
I love that bumper. Conservatives are better looking than liberals. We are. And the good looking people keep on coming over to our side, don't they, ladies and gentlemen? Hey, 901-316-8404. 901-316-8404 if you want to be part of the conversation in the program today. Tulsi Gabbard on Trump's debate team now, prepping him. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris has Hollywood producers and directors coming in. And I'm not kidding, and coaching her how to become a public speaker. Every time she's been on a debate stage, she has bombed. Every time. Every time she gives a speech, she's terrible, especially if she's speaking extemporaneously. If you're from Raytown, Missouri, that means without notes. And so she does not do well in front of a camera giving a speech. And that's why, part and parcel, as to the reason why she's been in the basement hiding from the press corps, not giving any interviews, not having a press conference. She's promised one before the end of this month. Never mind that it's been almost 40 days since she was bequeathed the nomination. She didn't earn it. She didn't work for it. She didn't have to earn any votes. She was just simply bequeathed the nomination from the elite hierarchy of the radical left communist socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. So she's got Hollywood elites training her, coaching her to be a debate queen, and we have Tulsi Gabbard and others on our side. But let's just refresh our memories. Let's take a look at how easy it is to destroy Kamala Harris, because all you have to do, folks, and this is true for most any liberal, is all you've got to do is look at their actions. Forget their words, because they'll say everything that's not true in order to convince you that they're the ones you have to vote for. And keep in mind, it's Kamala Harris herself. This is comical. She's the one who's saying today is in her campaign, hey, if you elect me and if you put me in office, I'll be the one who solves these problems for you. Says the woman who's currently in office. Do you get the craziness there? I mean, she's in office. Oh, but Doug, she's the vice president. She's not in control. Well, nonsense. Every interview that she gives, she says she's right there in the room with Administrator Biden. And many times she's the last person to leave. The rest of the advisors and whoever else leaves, and it's just her and Joe making the decisions. Those are Kamala's words. That's not me just making it up. So she's got the burden of proof. She's the one that says she's doing all of this. She certainly is in office, currently setting the trajectory of this country into the nightmare that we've been experiencing for the last 3.5 years. So don't give me the nonsense about how Vice Pretender Harris isn't responsible for the state of play in America. Every time the stock market hits new highs, and I'm glad that it is, you see the liberal talking heads, hey, the stock market hit a new record high. Way to go, Kamala. I mean, so if she's getting the credit, we've got to give her the criticism. If things go bad, it's her plate. She's the one responsible. So here's a clip. We're going to go back in time. And again, Tulsi Gabbard on the stage back in the primary election debates between her and a whole group of people. But this exchange is between Tulsi Gabbard and Kamala Harris. Clip number 3. Here we go.
Congresswoman Gabbard, you took issue with Senator Harris confronting Vice President Biden at the last debate. You called it a, quote, false accusation that Joe Biden is a racist. What's your response?
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris.
I mean, really. I mean, absolutely shredding her, dissecting her right there in front of her. She had no reasonably good comeback at all. Tulsi is verifying what I've been telling you all along about Kamala Harris and every other radical prosecutor, quote unquote, out there in our country. These radical left liberal states, district attorneys or attorneys general or prosecutors like Kamala was in California, they do not prosecute with extreme prejudice these violent criminals that we're faced with these days. And they oftentimes put in jail people that are, I mean, smoking marijuana. Many of you may have a moral objection to that, and that's fine. But to put someone in jail for a year for smoking marijuana, I mean, it doesn't seem quite balanced with the fact that she doesn't prosecute violent criminals, people that are guilty of rape and murder and gun violence and so forth. And in the off chance that these violent criminals are prosecuted, in many cases, Kamala Harris and other radical liberal prosecutors give light sentences. And on top of the light sentences, they're oftentimes let out early. And it's just further evidence of my claim to you is that liberals, and this, I mean, it makes their heads explode. But again, what other conclusions can we draw? Liberals want violence on the streets of America. They want violent criminals put back on the streets because they, the criminals, further escalate the chances of more chaos and more crisis. And that's part and parcel what liberals want to happen, because they think that crisis and chaos drive you and me, the people of America, to big government for protection. They think that because chaos and crisis surround us, that we would want bigger government to protect us, more laws, more regulations, more infringement on our Second Amendment rights. That's why they want gun shootings to happen. That's why they release people who are in jail on gun charges. Folks, look, evidence of the obvious here. That's what they do. I could tell you story after story of people who were in jail last week on gun charges who are out this week and who go out and commit more crime, more chaos. We need tougher crime. We need better background checks. We need to eliminate assault rifles. You know, we have enough laws on the books if they were simply enforced to put a huge dent in this problem. And no, ladies and gentlemen, we will never be able to end gun violence in this country. That's part of the give and take of living in a free society. But we can do a better job with denting the issue and making it abundantly clear that if you mess around with violence, with violent crime of any sort, you're going to do serious time. It's a, you know, and then they'll chime in and they'll say things, especially with regards to gun control and the attack of the Second Amendment. Well, Doug, all they had back in the time of the Founding Fathers, you know, Billings, you talk a lot about the intent of the Founding Fathers and what they meant. Well, when it comes to the Second Amendment, all they had were muskets. They didn't have these AR-15s and these assault rifles of today, the capacity to murder hundreds of people at a time. Ladies and gentlemen, look, the Founding Fathers, let's just take that argument and let's run with it for a minute, because the radical left often throw that up. They put that right there in our faces. Muskets, now I'm no firearms historian, but to my knowledge, muskets were among, if not the most advanced firearm of the day back in those days. So the musket, the founders wanted the citizenry to have the most advanced firearm that was available to them. So, of course, we have to put things in perspective. Yes, we're supposed to be armed with the best available firearms. Thank you very much. That was the intent of the founding fathers. You cannot draw any other conclusion. But no, we have to, and the words shall not be infringed mean something, my friends. And so they will continue their rampage about the Second Amendment. We'll continue to push back. We will ultimately win. It's in the Constitution. As long as they don't prevail in these elections, whereby they can stack or get rid of the Supreme Court and get legislators in place where they have a supermajority to pass new constitutional amendments, we can at least be assured that the Constitution is on our side. But Kamala Harris, in this debate, and the way that she behaved as a prosecutor, not good. And, putting people in jail for meaningless, simple crimes and then letting out the violent criminals, it's an issue. It is a real issue that she has to answer to. When we come back from the break, I'm going to show you another clip, another Tulsi Gabbard exchange with Kamala. And this is about how she withholds evidence. And, she brags about and talks about, I know how to handle people like Trump, convicted felon, this and that. Okay, point number one, no, you don't, because you didn't do a proper job when you were a district attorney and a prosecutor. And number two, all of the charges arrayed against President Trump are going to be either thrown out or dismissed. And he's going to prevail over all of them. So all of the radical liberals out there who are having their 15 minutes of fame and fun with the guilty verdicts and the convicted felon nonsense, pretty soon Trump is going to be the acquitted former president of the United States and falsely accused. And we're going to demand that they refer to him as such, because it's absolute nonsense. This is exactly why Tulsi Gabbard, Robert F. Kennedy, and Elon Musk, just to name a few, have left the Democrat Party, because of its weaponization of the very principles and the foundation and the agencies that are supposed to be used to protect us. All right, up against another break. Ladies and gentlemen, stay with me, please. Good to be with you. I'll be right back. Cheers. Hi, everybody. Your old friend Doug Billings here, coming to you from smack dab in the middle of the fruited plain. Mike Lindell, a friend of mine. Mike has come to all of the conferences, the Determined Patriotism conferences that I've given across the country, and I want to help him out too, him and his employees. In the face of all that he's been through, they have tried to cancel him yet again, ladies and gentlemen. MyPillow.com, promo code Billings. For everything you need, from pillows to sheets to towels, even a dog bed. I've got my son Michael's dog, who's a service dog, a yellow lab, great dog named Jet. Jet has 2 pet beds, one upstairs, one downstairs. He's loving life. They're the best dog beds in the world. The sheets are the best, towels. I mean, the mattress topper. Check out the mattress topper. It's like sleeping on a brand new mattress. I'm not kidding you. MyPillow.com, promo code Billings, ladies and gentlemen. Believe it, for the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Would you like to gain access to over 20 years of my radio shows, TV shows, my books? I've written 15 books, and most of those books are ebooks now, and we have conference DVDs, conferences where we filmed our conferences at the Ozarks, literally starting 20 years ago. It's all available in our archived vault. All you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and for a reasonable monthly fee, you gain access to over 20 years of Christian worldview programming, news, information, books, documentaries, and a powerful search engine. And folks, it's a great way not only to educate yourself, equip yourself, but it's a big way that you can help fund our continuation as a broadcast network. Please check it out. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and help us continue pushing out a Christian worldview.
The Right Side with Doug Billings, coming to you from the fruited plains of America.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we were talking about tonight the 3-year anniversary of the servicemen and women in Afghanistan and the Kamala Harris debacle, the debate prep and so forth, going back and forth with President Trump. You know, the left continually accusing Trump of being a coward. Are you kidding me? Trump, the guy who got shot in the face and stood up and yelled, "Fight, fight, fight," is not afraid to debate anybody. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, continually changing the rules. She wants notes. She wants the ability to have notes in front of her so that she can talk extemporaneously. Trump doesn't want the notes. He doesn't need the notes. Does she want the mic muted or not? Does she know? Does she have a bearing on the issues? Of course she does not. Every debate performance she's done has been a train wreck. She's never won one debate. She's never won a primary. She's never earned a vote from any member of her party. She was bequeathed all of this. And so she has now a team of Hollywood producers and directors, scriptwriters and so forth, and coaches, public speaking coaches, trying to guide her through how to be more effective in her debate. And to go back and highlight a little bit about her past biggest hits, another clip that involved her and Tulsi Gabbard debating a few years ago for the presidential primary. Take a look. Clip number 4, ladies and gentlemen.
The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you are in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who were on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
Senator Harris.
Yeah, that is atrocious, and it's telling. That's the story of liberals. That's what Kamala did, keeping the innocent in jail who could have been freed if they had only been given the evidence that Kamala was withholding from them. So Tulsi Gabbard that night absolutely destroying Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is not a gifted public speaker. She's certainly not a gifted debater, and it's because of this performance of Tulsi's and other public speaking events that she's given that she's been hired now by the Trump campaign to help his debate preparations for the September 10th. If Kamala ends up going through with this, it'll be on September 10th, that contest between her and President Trump. It'll be held at the Constitutional Center in Philadelphia. So Tulsi absolutely ripped her apart, those debates. I just bring them up and I show you. And I believe that most of you know this. Kamala's not good. She's not good on stage. She's not good in front of a group. She's not good answering questions on her feet. And that's why she's been avoiding press conferences. That's the reason. It's obvious to anyone who keeps any bit of an eye on any of this. And so she's I think, I just think that when they talk these words, you hear them all the time, joy, happiness, and they're out there smiling, and Kamala's got the cackle, and Tim Walz is skipping across the stage because he's a wussified version of an American male. What they actually do is different. There is no joy, and there's very few policies coming out from the camp, hardly anything at all. If they do put a policy forth, it's a copycat policy, no tax on tips, all of that. And so she even the way that they stage their rallies is a ripoff of the Trump campaign and what they do. But again, she puts people in jail smoking pot. Later on in an interview, makes a joke about smoking pot herself because the rules don't apply to them. It's only us. The same thing was evident during the COVID pandemic. All sorts of those people were caught not wearing the mask mandates. Now, I don't blame them for not wearing. I never wore a mask, even though there were mandates. I'm not going to do it. But to think that we would be punished and they wouldn't for doing the same thing, it's ridiculous. But that's their mindset. And with Robert F. Kennedy now joining the list of people coming over to our side, I mean, that's, he alone, when you do the math and you look at all of the demographic groups, white, black, men, women, brown, Asian, Latino, you have especially the Gen Z group. Now, that's surprising to a degree. The kids are all for President Trump. They look around and they say, hey, man, I'm trying to get a job. I'm trying to get my life started, but I can't because of the Bidenomics, which is now the Harrisomics, right? It's her economy now. And you'll see them post the stock market. Hey, the stock market, another record high, which is great. I'm all for the stock market hitting record highs. But the stock market has nothing to do with our ability to put food on the table. That's inflation. It's cost of living. It's at an all-time high in this republic, and that's squarely at the feet of Kamala Harris. And so they don't talk about these things because there is no way that they can talk their way out of them. The truth is we are in a nightmare, and it's because of the policies, the platform, and the politics of the radical left party. And then we have Elon Musk. 2 billion views or listens to a phone call that he had with President Trump. You've got that. You've got the 20 million votes that RFK Jr. has brought. You've got Tulsi Gabbard now. All of that represents is people waking up. These are former Democrats, folks. People who are waking up and looking around the country, as I said earlier in the program. This is not what I signed up for. The people that may have voted for Administrator Biden and Vice Pretender Harris, right? This is not what we want. This is not America, and it's not. And it's purposefully designed not to be America because this Communist Socialist Party, formerly known as Democrats, is not a pro-America political party. Evidence of the obvious. People are waking up, and therein and thereby lays the hope that I want to leave you with again today, because you look around and you see chaos, crisis. They start it. They want it. If it doesn't happen organically, they'll figure out a way to light a fuse to some issue that will cause chaos and crisis. But we are waking up, and I'm telling you, again, don't pay attention to the polls that the liberals show you. The liberal polls are filled with bad methodology and something called response bias. Response bias is going to take a poll. You're going to go to the Hickman Mills Democrat Women's Club, right? And you're going to say, "Hey, ladies of the Hickman Mills Democrat Club, who are you going to vote for between Kamala Harris and President Trump?" And they're the Hickman Mills Democrat Club. They're going to choose Kamala Harris. Oh, we've got a new survey out, a new poll. Kamala Harris is way ahead of President Trump. That's bad methodology, and it's response bias. It's a sampling of a group of people who have a bias towards a certain response of the questions asked. And so when you see that, you understand they're not valid. Look at the Electoral College polls that are coming out from groups like Iowa polls on X, or the Rasmussen polls are fairly reputable. Don't worry, we're in a good place. The election is coming right up, but we've got all of the defections coming our way, all of the people waking up and coming our way, and the mass millions of people are just John and Jane Doe on the streets of America. They're one of us commoners, and they've woken up, and they're coming to the right side. Go with that, run with it. And we know the truth because we can see it. And you're the most intellectually mature members of all of podcast land, precisely because you listen and watch to this show. All right, I'm out of time. I'm out of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great evening. I'll be back with you. Remember, every Monday through Friday, right here, the good people at worldofyoutube.com. Thank you to them, people at Spreely TV, and everywhere that you see me on social media, X, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble. Please follow me on those platforms, especially X and Rumble and YouTube. Get out there, follow me, and give worldviewtube.com a good listen and a watch as well. Great content on that platform. Until tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, believe it for the Republic. Cheers.
You guys, I'm
All right, welcome everybody. This is Code Blue with Dr. John and Brooke Witzer. So honored to be here with you this morning. We have a very special guest with us this morning, Dr. James Thorpe. And he's an OBGYN doctor, and he's from Pensacola, and he has been outspoken throughout COVID. And we're just so honored to we'll have him on here in just a moment.
Yes, we are so excited to have Dr. Thorpe because he's been a true outspoken hero from the very beginning.